Welcome to the stories that shape our community. My name is Trevor Moore, and I'll be your host in this Southeast Alberta podcast series where we explore the importance of putting local first and the power positive impact has on shaping our communities. These episodes are about giving listeners a backstage pass as we explore the why behind these great local business stories. There's no one-size-fits-all approach in business, and these journeys are as unique as the people themselves. Our local guests will highlight the challenges, solutions, and philosophies they've employed to overcome adversity, showcase resilience, and have a positive and lasting impact in our community now and well into the future. We all know that what is inside makes a house a home, and we're at Sofas More, which is all about the things inside your home, but it's more than that. Here with Heather Koch, owner and operator on today's show, we're going to talk about inviting people into your home, being your business, and investing in the people around you and in your community. It's all about home, it's all about comfort, and it's all about making people a part of your inner circle. Heather Koch, owner operator, Sofas More, welcome to the show. We are here with Heather Koch, owner-operator of Sofas More. I'm excited about this. I consider myself a bit of a sofa connoisseur. Although we're in a sofa store, we are probably going to talk a lot of business today, and I guarantee that the stories are going to take us in a direction, and this business was not built laying down. 20 years today, or not today specifically, but this year, Heather, take me through maybe 3 or 4 moments that have gotten us here. How did this come about? What was the idea? What was the vision that brought Sofas More together and brought it into this world?
Well, my husband and I both worked hard for other people. And we decided that we wanted to be in business together and started thinking about what type of business we should or would like to do. And then I was working at a furniture store, and that furniture store was closing. And we thought about that and said, you know, Medicine Hat is going to lose a big furniture store. And so why don't we look at that? And we came up with a different concept than the store I was working for, as well as the other stores that you see in the city. And our concept was going to be quality Canadian-made furniture rather than product that's manufactured in other countries. Yeah, so that was sort of how it started. The idea came forward, and we went, yeah, let's do this. So
that's the seeds that it grew out of, was that
Exactly.
conversation. You know, that is so often the story with entrepreneurs is there's this something they're in, something they're doing, something they're passionate about, but then there's a disruption in the flow, either a new owner they work under that they don't get along with, or maybe they've just overgrown their stay and their time to move to another place, and then they come up with their passion in that, and they find this venture to move into entrepreneurship, which is not an easy task, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I love that you keyed in right away there, one of the things is so important to find your niche, to find a specific demographic of the market that you serve and how you serve them and serve them well. And you picked Canadian made, which was an important one. Why was that important to you?
Well, I think that it is important to support our own country. I mean, so much of our manufacturing has gone to other countries. And as we saw in COVID, that has not been beneficial to us as Canadians. You know, if you're relying on other countries to provide so much product to you, and then something happens and you can't get that supply, you're in trouble. So we just thought, we're Canadians, let's support Canada. There's lots of wonderful quality manufacturers in our own country that are international companies. They ship all over the place. And, you know, in Medicine Hat, it wasn't being supported. So we said, let's do this.
I love it, right? And you know, both from the heart perspective of you know, serving your country and supporting your country and businesses. From the heart, there's a passionate piece to that, but you also keyed another piece, and it's like, you know, we contain some more control. Like when a ship starts to go sideways in the canal, we don't have to worry about our sofas being on that ship and not getting here from us. So there's a double end to that, right? There is that, you know, the feel good part of the story, and really your beliefs and your values as a business and how you support. But there's also a business upside to doing that as well. A little bit more control, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at. So you start early. You end up as an entrepreneurship. You know, or end up in entrepreneurship. Sort of by accident, right? You're originally employed and you decide that it's time for a change, or maybe a change was decided for you, and you went that route, right? What were some of the moments where you talked yourself in and out of doing it? Because, entrepreneurship is not that seamless thing that we like to believe. I know every entrepreneur I talk about, we talk about the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster, especially first getting in. Sometimes you're passionate and then it's like, oh no, it's not going to work. It's going to work. It's not going to work. And it goes back and forth. To a new entrepreneur on the outside looking in, somebody that's listening to this today, I know that when I first got into business, the only people I could compare myself to were those people that were already in business, many of whom had been in it for 20 years. They had worked a lot of the bugs out, and it created a little bit of a false perception for me that I had to have it all right in order to be able to do it. I couldn't learn as I go, get better as I go, and grow as I go. If a new entrepreneur is listening and they're experiencing some of those frustrations, maybe you could share some of the frustrations or concerns or fears that you had initially starting and what you've learned through that 20 years later, because clearly anything that you would have been battled with day one, you've conquered, right? Maybe you could take us through some of the emotional roller coaster that goes into starting that business.
Sure. So I think one of the things was the biggest challenge was my husband knew nothing about furniture, nothing. And it was just the two of us. So he had to learn everything that there was to learn. I had some knowledge because I'd worked at a furniture store. And so that was tough because a lot of it fell on my shoulders. When he was dealing with a customer regarding something, he had to come to me and so I had to kind of spread myself a little thin. So that was tough, but he just embraced it and was willing and up for the challenge, And so that was our first thing. The other thing that we ran into right after we opened was they twinned the road beside us. And so there was a lot of construction going on and the road was closed. And so nobody was driving by. And that was really tough. It was scary. Yeah. One of the things that we realized very quickly after we opened was you can't look at numbers every day. Yeah. Don't look at numbers every day because that'll drive you crazy. And that's where you get onto that roller coaster of emotions because you think, what were we thinking when we did this? And because both of us jumped in, we didn't have an outside income. It was the two of us working at the same thing and no income coming from anywhere else. And so that was huge too. But my biggest thing is don't look at the numbers every day. You have to look at the big picture. Yes,
so much so. The numbers will drive you crazy, and they will fill you full of fear and self-doubt, and they will also pump you full of or overconfidence at times too, and you run that roller coaster. What were some of the things that you've maybe done as an entrepreneur, or you would suggest a new entrepreneur really look at and consider when they start to get into those moments where it's like, careful, tap the brakes. You might be going too fast right now and too hard. What would be your suggestions to them?
I think it's really important to take that time for yourself. I also think one of the rules that we kind of had was when we're at work, we're at work. At the end of the day, and we live on the southeast side of the city. And so when we would drive home, we'd get to the bottom of Dunmore Hill and we'd say, okay, now we're in home mode. And you have to just leave it behind you. What you did today, you did what you could. Look at it tomorrow. And, for the rest of the evening, it's now personal time. Yes. And we had to really concentrate on doing that. Don't think about work once you get home. You have to concentrate on your personal life as well. And so we kind of had that rule. It was like, okay, leave it go, and go up the hill. Yeah,
and that is a powerful rule. Is to really set boundaries for yourself, right? Absolutely. I once spoke to an entrepreneur who had a home-based business and home office, and he spent all his time in his home office. And he said he lost the benefit of the commute to and from work. So he would spend his morning getting ready for work and he would walk around the block back home to go to work. And then he would walk in the opposite direction around the block coming home from work. He said it was only 3 to 5 minutes, but it was the chance where he could settle the dust in his mind, put his to-do list together for tomorrow, reflect on today, and go. And that's an important piece, is to really have those healthy boundaries and the divide. Sometimes we need stronger boundaries than others, but it is important, isn't it, to really set those boundaries. But let me ask you a question, because I know that sometimes when I was early in business, it was harder to have those boundaries because I was scared that sometimes those boundaries were going to be letting my clients down or letting people down. How did you find your clients responded to the fact that, you know, it's like we're after hours, we can only do so much, we're doing our things. And how was the response?
I think it was really good. Like people understand.
Yeah.
They do. When you say to them, you know, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it tomorrow. If you reassure them. And I think it's also important to, when you say you're going to do something, to do it. Like that, you know, don't promise something you can't deliver. And I think that Medicine Hat in general has found out over this 20 years that when we say this is what we'll do, this is what we do. And, you know, so it takes time to establish that with your clients, but most people are very understanding. They know that you have a life. They know you have a family. They know you have other things going on because they do. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Right. And I remember a friend of mine who I'd consider a mentor. We both sort of been in business roughly the same amount of time, and we've kind of grown and shared battle room stories, so to speak, together.
Right.
But one of the things that we both often talk about is that there was that fear of sometimes taking care of myself and backing out of the operation, and fear for how it would be responded. But the amazing thing was, it was met with such great patience and respect on the other side that it made me really realize that I was worried about something that was completely unnecessary. I was trying to put my concerns to rest, not the clients. They were totally fine. They trusted me to get it done. As you said, say what you mean what you say. Just the motto, right? And go there. But that self-care is so important in this equation. Now, let's look at some challenges. I mean, 20 years. You've talked about one, the road construction going on, and that happens, and especially a city that's got some infrastructure like Medicine Hat. We've got some older buildings and areas and roads. We're trying to upgrade some of this. So there's businesses all over the city that are impacted by construction. We were impacted by COVID the last few years. What are some things in the last 20 years in the life of Sofas and More that have popped up really unexpectedly, beyond your control, but had potential to dramatically impact your business, your life, and your operation? And how did you navigate those? Because you're still here. You've made it through those moments. I know that so often out of the ashes of those moments come great things. And we have to sort of navigate forward. Some of them are painful. They're terrifying. They're scary when these moments pop up, right? Like, you know, COVID, recessions, those things. How do you navigate the challenges that you've faced? And what were some that have really come up to you that you can think of, things maybe either reflectively where you're like, we didn't know it at the time, but this was what we did to change, and it's now a standard part of our operating procedure. Can you think of anything that's changed that you've really embraced?
I think that I want to say it was right around 2007, 2008, somewhere in there, that that's when we were ready to expand, and we were ready to, you know, hire some staff. And the challenges that we faced was trying to find the right people. Trying to find people who wanted to work in this industry. Not an easy thing to do. And at that time, there was so much going on in the oil field that if you did find someone, then they got a job in the oil field, and away they went. And so that was tough. And what we also noticed was a lot of our suppliers ran into that same thing. So we had a company that we were dealing with that was manufacturing in Airdrie, and they couldn't keep staff because they would just get them trained, and then their staff would leave for the oil field. And so what they ended up doing was they moved their operations into Winnipeg and shut down their plant in Alberta. And that solved their problem, which in effect solved a problem for us because of the supply chain. We were running into problems with the supply there, and so that company, what they did to solve their problem actually helped to solve our supply problem.
And that's a big thing that I think that so often we forget in business is the ripple effect, both up and down that situation. Everything we do creates a ripple up or down that chain. And we're also, you know, intertwined and threaded. And when someone solves a part of the puzzle for us, it makes solving the other part of the puzzle a little easier, right? But it is tough. You're right. Finding the right people and those types of things, especially in this. I mean, we all love a good couch, but we all don't need to know about a good couch. We just want to know if it's available to be sat on, right? Like, So I bet it's a tough industry to find staff. And as you mentioned, Alberta, I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly all revolves around the success of oil and gas. One way or the other, it does trickle down, whether it's employment, whether it's pricing, whether it's recession, like it all stems around it. We really are stuck in that situation where there are things outside of our control.
Right.
In business, and there always will be. When you get into those moments where things are not outside of your control, at first it's a little scary, it's a little panicky, but then we sort of have this switch that flips as an entrepreneur. We start to realize I can't control the world around me. I can only control the world inside me, and then use that to influence the world around me. What were some of the changes in perspective that you had in those, where you really maybe changed your focus on how you were going to hire or employ or change things to make that expansion happen at that challenging time?
Well, I think that one of the things that we always said was once we started our business and it became successful, we wanted to be able to share that with our employees. And so once we shared that vision with people that we were talking to about coming to work for us and joining our team, and let them know that they, would be able to advance financially, as the business got more successful. And I think that showing that you appreciate your people, and their willingness to help you become successful so that they can become successful makes a big difference too.
For sure, right? Yeah. In any capacity, when you can get people on board and you can share a vision, you can share a dream, you can share a goal. It's not just somebody coming in and picking off your plate, or you just gently putting crumbs on theirs. It's this sort of synergy that you create, right? And that's an important piece. So tell me through some of that scenario. I mean, it's there's a lot to think about in that, and relationship building is important, right? And that's really what that comes down to, is building relationships with your staff, treating them more than just staff as a part of the big picture, empowering them to sort of take quote unquote ownership of this operation and be proud of it. When you shifted to that sort of, growth and that sort of, what kind of things did you see change with your staff? Was it easier to hire? Were you seeing staff staying longer? What kind of positive upsides were you seeing out of that transition?
So absolutely that. I've had right now the staff that I have, they're long-term. I haven't anybody who hasn't been here for at least 5 years. Right. And I think that is because I think the passion that you have for furniture, or the passion for what you do, whatever it is you do, can be reflected onto the rest of the staff. And they then become very passionate about what they do as well. And I think part of that is giving them the opportunity to shine, right? And, so it's sort of, I train people and then say, okay, I trust in you. I know, and I have confidence in you that you can do your job. I'm going to just let you do it and take ownership of it and do it your way. And if you run into problems, then you can come to me. But I think I'm not a micromanager. I never have been. I'm not the type of person that just hovers over you and is always constantly telling you how to do your job. It's like, you know what you're doing. I have every confidence that you'll get the job done. And I think that has been part of the success in keeping staff, is allowing them to shine and do their job. Yeah,
empowering them to grow. Is so important, right? And by the same token, even in that same perspective, allowing them to make mistakes is a part of that growth. Rick, it's, as long as we're not making the fatal mistakes and sending furniture out the back door for free, right? But you're going to make mistakes, and it's one of those. Are you a little better today than you were yesterday? Are you a little wiser this week than you were last week? Have you learned something new? Are you going to connect and engage with the clients differently? And as long as that continual growth happens, it's so much easier to be patient with the staff, but it's also empowering to them. And that's a big piece, is to give them the empowerment that they feel like they have the opportunity to apply some of their personality, some of their creativity to the way they get things done.
Exactly.
And people first, right?
Yes.
Now, let's look outside of that scenario. I mean, we've talked inside these four walls so far. We've talked inside these four walls, but there's no way a business is this successful and lasts 20 years in this city through floods and all of the things we've had, if you weren't invested in the community, and we don't mean invested necessarily in writing checks and dollars and cents from sponsorships and contributions, but there's an investment to the energy of the community, to the ecosystem, right? We all play a role in fostering this community where we can all work together.
Right.
How important is it for you, for Sofas and More, to be invested in the community? And what are some ways outside of the, again, quote unquote, writing checks, what are some ways that you've believed that you could be impactful in the community and serve the community in some ways that you've sort of gotten involved? And it can be even simple coffee with people, just being accessible. What kind of things do you pride yourself on about being accessible in the community and being a part of the community outside of these four walls?
Well, I think it is, I'm willing to get involved. I'm willing to volunteer. I have several different ventures that I believe in and I think strongly about. And I think that when you make the time in your life to become involved in those resources that are out there. Certainly being a member of the chamber all these years has been helpful. They do a lot of networking type activities that you can, partake in, and networking is how you get your name out there. It really is. It's how you make connections, and anything that you attend, really. You go to a golf tournament, you meet new people, you talk about what you do, you talk about what they do, and I think that one of the things that I've had a lot of people say to me is that I'm passionate about what I do, and they can tell I am. Yeah. And I do believe that. I love what I do, and I think that comes across when I talk about what I do. But I think also I love this community. I grew up in Medicine Hat. I think it's a community that you can become successful in business because it is welcoming and opening. The people in Medicine Hat are willing to give you a try. They're willing to give you a shot. Yep. And if you're honest and you show integrity, they'll come back. Yep. And if you go out into the community and just let people know that you're here and that what you believe in and what you're doing, what you say you're going to do, you're going to do. And that is important. And I mean, I feel that way. I remember a number of years ago, I was asked to join a board. I can't remember which organization it was for. And I, at that time, was very busy with a lot of things going on, personally and business-wise. And I thought about it, and then I said to the fellow that asked me, I said, I think I have to decline, because when I join something, when I make a commitment, I give it my all. And I don't think at this time in my life I'd be able to give it my all. And so I have to decline right now. And I think that that's important too. Like, I don't think that you should spread yourself so thin that you're on, 20 committees, but you're not being a good resource to any of those. So I think that that's really important too, that you make that balance of what you're going to commit to. Yeah,
the balance is really huge, right? I want to key on something you said in there, and I'm going to loosely quote you. So if anybody's watching and goes back and says that isn't exactly the quote, I'm summarizing. But you talked about networking, and you said just get out there and meet people. And I loved the get out there and meet people. So often new entrepreneurs feel the need to get out and meet prospects. No, meet people. At the end of the day, you're just trying to, in your first 2 or 3 years of business, meet as many people as you can and endear yourself to them as a person. Get them to understand who you are and learn about who they are, and let the dust settle where it does, right? When you meet people, you have this opportunity. When you meet them without a sale in mind or without a transaction in mind, I've met so many great people that at the end of the equation, a year or two down the road, maybe they were a client of mine, but by the same token, maybe I ended up a client of theirs. Right. Or maybe we ended up colleagues in an industry. We could go for coffee and brainstorm the challenges that we're dealing with. And you sort of meet people first and then sift them out into the parcels of where you and they fit into one another's lives. Right. Whereas so often a new entrepreneur gets out and they try to force the prospect out. It's like, I need as many people as I can. Those are all leads. No, those are all people. And you let those people come to you. and now it's permission marketing, permission-based sales. They've expressed interest.
Right.
How important is that to you to really stay emphasized and focused on the people rather than the prospect of this equation?
Oh, I mean, that's so important.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do when I train my staff is I talk about when a client comes in, when a person comes in, you need to find out about them.
Mm-hmm.
Find out, what do they do? How do they use their home? And because in our industry, if you don't do that, you're not helping them find what's going to work for them, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to get to know them. And it's funny because a lot of the people that we've met over the years, over these 20 years, have become really good friends. Mm-hmm. We've gone on vacation with people that are customers, but they also have become friends of ours. And we've gone on vacation, we've joined groups, we've partied together, we've, attended functions together as friends, not as, supplier client relationship.
Yeah, those friendships are so important,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Those friendships are just so important. And that's one of the neat things about what I love about Medicine Hat as a city is I think we're really at this amazing city size where we are big enough to sustain just about anything. Right. But we are small enough that we are all only a phone call or two away from an ear of experience, a client, a connection, someone who can help us solve our problem or connect us to the person they can. It's such an amazing city size, and it's such an open city, right? When you look at organizations looking for volunteers, the one thing you hear all the time is the amazing ability to tap the volunteer base in our community compared to other cities. There's larger cities that struggle to get the volunteer volume we do in this small city. But because we have such pride in our community, because we're so tightly knit together that we all know we're only one favor away from getting where we need to be, and really we can return and pay that favor forward. Right. How has the city size helped you, right? I mean, has it been a good thing for you, or would this be better in a bigger city? What is the where am I going with the question here? Let me look at it this way. How valuable is this city size when you focus on it, when you look at the strengths of being this size of city? How important is it to be in Medicine Hat for you? Huge.
I mean, I honestly don't think that Sofas and More would be as successful in a bigger community. I don't. Our success is based on the relationships we've built. In a big city, you don't build those kinds of relationships. You can't. It's, it's amazing. I joined a group a number of years ago, a coffee group. And we would meet once a week for coffee, and all business people, and just chat about the different challenges we were having, and how can I solve this? Does anybody have an idea how this can be? And that was really, really helpful for me, and I also was able to help a few other people that were faced with challenges. Right? I don't know that you'd be able to make that kind of connection with other business people in a bigger city. Maybe it's possible, but I think
there are businesses out there that succeed in bigger cities, so it is clearly possible,
sure.
but not under maybe the not under the philosophy that you live on, right? You can't have that same impact in a bigger city when you're really, really trying to be authentic and exactly. Look people in the whites of the eyes and be a member of service groups together. It's hard. You can do it in bigger cities, but it takes a whole different model and a whole different process to get out there. Yeah. I love the coffee group. I know that when I first started in business, I was invited into a coffee group as well. And it was about, I think, maybe 25 or 30 people, all entrepreneurs. And we met every second Wednesday for breakfast. And gosh, we had no idea where the conversation was going to go any given Wednesday morning.
Exactly.
But never once did I leave and go, well, that was an utter waste of my time. By the same token, never once did we ever attempt to sell to one another or anything. Yeah. It was one of those, you know who I am. If you need me, come find me.
Exactly.
But where are we at? How was your day? What's your week? How are you balancing your busy life with your kids and activities and getting them to and from hockey? How are you setting the boundaries with your spouse when you work together? And that is the real wisdom and the value of networking and meeting people. Heather, it has been awesome to have you today. I've had a blast. It's been great to be here. I love I feel like I'm in a living room, and that's probably the whole point, right? So It's great to be here. Thank you for sharing that wisdom, and we wish you nothing but success in the future with Sofas and More. You've been a part of this community. You've invested in the community, not just with dollars and cents, but with passion, with people, with jobs, and you are supporting our community in many ways. So those are the kind of stories that we need to hear and share. If there was somebody out there listening to this podcast, we've talked about new entrepreneurs listening to some of these nuggets. Someone is living just outside of Medicine Hat, thinking of moving to Medicine Hat because they want to start a business. What is your 60-second real estate pitch saying, this is why you need to start your business in Medicine Hat? What would you tell them?
I would say Medicine Hat is a community that will embrace you. They will embrace you. If you come and you do what you say you're going to do, Medicine Hat will embrace you.
I love it and completely agree. That's exactly it. Thank you very much, Heather. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to our podcast sponsor, the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce, who is fueling the business community in Southeast Alberta through connections, support, and influence. They're driven to shape our community. Their hope is that this podcast will help fuel you and your passion for supporting local first. To learn more about the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce or to watch more episodes of the stories that shape our community, please visit them online at medicinehatchamber.com/stories that shape our community. In addition, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming app so you don't miss any of the unique stories we share, the inspiring guests who share them, and the impact they have had in Southeast Alberta. Stories are all around us. We just need to connect and be able to share them. If you want to be featured on this podcast with a story of your business or organization, or if you know a story that should be shared, please submit a nomination through the Chamber website. Thanks again for watching and listening today. We look forward to sharing more stories with you that help shape our community. I'm Trevor Moore, the host of Stories That Shape Our Community, and I challenge you all, be sure to help shape our community through your very own story.